Welcome to She's the Boss, the podcast where female wellness entrepreneurs talk ambition, money, and ownership out loud. I'm your host, Lee McSwan, a certified holistic nutritionist turned wellness business coach. This is where conversations are unfiltered, the rules of entrepreneurship get rewritten, and nothing is off limits. Money, motherhood, friendships, legacy, wealth, power, and what it really takes to build a life and business on your terms. Let's get after it. Today, we are joined by Sarah Lambert. She is a high-performance business and leadership coach for entrepreneurs, and she's also a mom of two. She has helped hundreds of women scale their online businesses in an aligned and easeful way using nervous system-informed strategy and leadership. She combines high-level strategy and brand building with subconscious identity and nervous system work in a way that allows people to create unmatched results while feeling their best. In today's conversation, we are diving into nervous system-led leadership, scaling without burnout, ambition, identity shifts required for bigger money, and what it actually takes to build a business that feels as good as it looks. You're going to love this episode, and make sure you check out the show notes where I've got some journal prompts that will absolutely transform your business and your personal life. Let's get into today's episode. Sarah Lambert, welcome to She's the Boss. How are you doing this morning?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me, Lee.
Okay, I want to ask you something as this is a wellness-based podcast. What did you have for breakfast this morning? And did you take any supplements?
Oh gosh, the shame.
Oh no.
I did not take any supplements, but I made my kids protein pancakes, a household favorite. And yeah, I am admittedly terrible at remembering to take my supplements.
Same. I have not taken my supplements for probably 2.5 weeks now, and I have not had breakfast other than collagen coffee. So yeah.
Oh, I always have breakfast. I sometimes have 2 breakfasts. So
do you really?
I'm proud of that. Yes, because sometimes I will eat early and then I will need to have something else. If I wake up early and I eat within 45 minutes, I would say. And then sometimes with the kids, I'll eat again. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that would be my dream life, but I'm not there and probably never will be. I'm such a snake. I like 2 big meals a day and that's it. Okay, let's dive into this podcast. So for those of you who are not familiar with Sarah, her work is incredibly impactful. She is who I would consider a thought leader. So we are going to use this time to pick her brain. We are going to learn as much as we possibly can. I'm also honored to say that Sarah is my own business coach, and the amount of stuff I have learned from her over the last 7 months, 6 months, 7 months,
6
something
months,
like that is truly incredible. So I'm really happy to be able to share a part of the day with her. And so let's kick it off. Sarah, give us a little bit of your backstory. Tell us what you're doing now and how you got here.
Yeah, thank you. And it is such an honor to have you in the spaces. So thank you, Lee. And I'm so glad that it's been valuable. So yeah, how this all started. I mean, how far back do you want me to go? But I've been an online business owner since 2019. And I had a photography side hustle before that business. And so I've been working for myself, promoting my own work online for almost a decade now. It'll be a decade next year. But even before that, I was obsessed with learning about online business for years before I ever made money online. Back in 2015 is when my obsession started. So I have just been learning and studying this work for so long, and that has evolved so much. At the beginning, it was very much studying the strategies and how to make passive income and how to create courses and build a personal brand. And then that really transitioned into how to become a really powerful leader, how to regulate your nervous system, how to expand your capacity and work through limiting beliefs and all of the things that you can't see, but are just as, if not more important than the strategies. And so that has really led me to where I am now in my business, which is being able to help other female founders, other leaders really become self-mastered in their work and in themselves and their lives. And so what that really means is these leaders, they're such high performing women, and they want to have it all. They want to be able to scale their businesses, but they don't want to have to sacrifice their health, their time, their family life. And so I have been able to, for myself, find this beautiful balance where I've been able to scale my business and make more without working more and find this real sense of peace and leadership in myself and in my home and my business. And that has been such a beautiful gift to be able to give those tools and leadership skills as well as the strategies to my clients. And so I really love working with, and that's what I'm focused on, working with these women who are so committed to building, but building differently.
One of the things that you have always kind of said on social media is you are the strategy. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah. You are the strategy is so powerful because when you realize that you are the only thing that is going to both get you the results and stop you from getting the results, you realize that you are your greatest asset. You are the person, the thing that needs to be addressed first and foremost. And so when you really focus on you, your energy, how you're showing up, everything works. And so, of course, strategies get layered in. But if you go from a strategy first approach where you think that if I just have the right plug and play strategy, then I'm going to become a millionaire, that could work, but it's going to come at a cost. It's going to cost you your alignment, like your flow, your time, your energy. Whereas in order to do it, the way that the women I work with want to do it, and that is being in flow, doing the things we want to do versus having to do things because some bro marketer said we have to, that's going to burn you out. And so you really are the strategy. If you want something, it's really just about expanding your beliefs, your capacity, your nervous system to align to it, and then taking the aligned actions, of course.
Yeah. And this is something that I think many of us don't realize, right? Like was definitely that person that was like, okay, I understand mindset. Yeah, I'm good. I want to be like an 8-figure earner one day. But you're right. So many of us focus on the strategy. Do you think that this is one of the problems for people that are just starting out with their business? Or is it something that you see getting carried on until you're basically forced to address it and do that work? Is that what's preventing women from like fucking loving their businesses?
That's such a great question because this work will present itself differently for every single person. And you can predict where it's going to hit you based on the people that you're around. And so if you look at your parents, your close group of friends, your partner, the people that you spend the most time with, and once you start outgrowing them or doing things differently than them, that's when it's going to trigger something in your nervous system. So for me, my husband and his parents are all entrepreneurs. My sister and her husband are entrepreneurs. My dad, his wife are entrepreneurs. My grandma was an entrepreneur. So it becoming an entrepreneur was not hard. I didn't need a lot of mindset shifts to go for it. I also was used to making 6 figures in my corporate world and but combined, I was making well over 6 figures. My husband was making well over 6 figures. My friends, and I live in a neighborhood where most people are making over 6 figures. And so getting to 6 figures was so easy. I got there within a year. It was then once I started pushing the edges of what I looked around and was like, oh, wait, well, nobody else is making $500,000 a year. Nobody else is making $1 million a year. Who am I to do this? What does that look like for me? Will I be accepted? And these weren't happening in my brain. In my brain, I'm like, I got this. I'm doing it. I'm amazing. This is great. And I thought everything was great and I could just scale my strategy. But then once I started to layer in more strategy and trying to work more to make more, the results weren't resulting in the way that they should on paper. And that's when I had to go inwards and be like, something's happening because it's always worked in the past. Why isn't it working anymore?
Can you share why it wasn't working?
Yeah. And so when I look back on my childhood, I struggled in school. And I also struggled to, I was people would look at me and say, oh yeah, you were athletic, you always were on the teams, but it was always hard for me. I didn't always make the team. I had to work twice as hard. I had to give it my all because I'm a small person. I just wasn't as naturally athletic as my sister was, as some people were. And same in school. I had to work twice as hard as everyone to get less than marks. All my friends in high school, they all got awards in high school. I did not. And so I told myself that I have to work harder than everyone else. And if you have a belief that you have to work harder than everyone else to be average, it's hard for you to believe that things can come easily. And my desire was passive income. My desire was, I don't want to have to work harder. I want this to just be a well-oiled machine and I just want it to work. But in my body, I was like, well, this can't possibly work. Like, I have to work hard. I have to work harder than everyone. If it works for them, it's not going to work that way for me because I have to work harder. And this was a subconscious belief that I had. That was one piece. The other piece was that I grew up really blocking myself from feeling any emotion. I used to pride myself on, I never cry. I never cry. I would say, oh yeah, I don't cry. And I would look at people who were big criers and be like, I never cry. And I realized a year or so into my business that this was actually impacting me more than I thought because I was so disconnected from my body. And that really helped me realize that I needed to do some healing and allow myself to feel some things so that I could move them.
So what are some of the ways that we can really start to unpack the process or maybe even become aware of what that subconscious belief is? How do we bring enough self-awareness to the fact that, something's not happening in my business. It's got to be me. I'm doing the work. I'm putting in the effort, but yet I keep coming up to this roadblock. How did you get to that point where you realized I've always had to work harder than other people to hit my goals?
Mm-hmm. I think for me, that specific belief came to the surface through some inner child work that I was doing with an inner child coach. But I don't think that you need to do specific inner child healing in order to get the result. Inner child healing is very similar to therapy. So if you've done therapy, they take you back to your childhood, talk me through that. And that was kind of my therapy. But the way that I work with it with my clients, because I like to move really quick through these things and get really fast clarity. I don't like to sit in the drama of what happened to me as a child. I like to just be able to be okay, this happened. This is what it made me feel. This is the belief I have now. Let's go work that. I don't need to go replay what happened. That's me personally. And a lot of my clients who are building businesses are yeah, we don't need to talk about this for an hour. Let's figure out what it is and move. And so what I recommend is there's a couple things. One thing is a journal prompt where you can there's a couple. You can say, I believe that I am, and you can just start journaling. I am this, I am that, I this, and you just start stream of consciousness, everything that you believe about yourself. That's one. Another one is the world is, and start to share about your views on the world, because this is also limiting. If you believe that the world is a bad place, if you believe that the world is against you, that's not serving you either. And so I am and the world is, and really letting the stream of consciousness come out of what your true beliefs are. Another really, really powerful exercise, which I've talked to you about and you've learned in the certification, is the deepest fear inventory. And this is where you just write down your biggest goal and then list 25 reasons why you don't actually want that goal. And it might sound crazy at first because it's why would I not want my goal? And this is the whole point, is because there are actually reasons why your body, your subconscious, is afraid of achieving the thing that you think you want the most. And when you start to uncover that, it's this huge oh, shoot, I think I want to be a millionaire, but everything I just wrote associates being a millionaire with losing my family, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, when you had us go through this activity, I was like, this is the weirdest activity ever. And naturally, I got the most out of it. I also started using it as a way to test things that I wanted to bring into my business. Because for me, a lot of it was like, do I have capacity? And can I sustain this? Can this be something that I do and keep it going? So it was really powerful. I'm going to leave those journal prompts in the show notes for anyone that wants to do this work because it's so impactful. When you talk about bro marketing, can you compare and contrast why women should and shouldn't, either follow somebody who's a bro marketer and what we need to leave behind? Because women in business, it's night and day from men in business, right? Can you talk on that?
Oh, yeah. There's a few things. The first and most obvious is just that our natural cycles are so different. And so men, they have a 24-hour cycle. They feel the same at 9 a.m. as they do the next day at 9 a.m. versus women, we have the 30-day or 28-day cycle, depending on your personal flow. And right there, our months are going to look different. And so we all know that there are certain weeks where we should be booking the podcast recordings. We should be, and other weeks where we should be giving ourselves more rest. This week, I have 3 podcast recordings because I am in the perfect time of the month to be recording podcast episodes. And being able to tap into what works best for me has really helped me get into my flow and get into my best state. And so that's the first and foremost. The second is that, oh my gosh, there's so many. So the second is that a lot of the women I work with are moms, and moms tend to be the default parent for a lot of things. And so I know, and this has been a bone of contention. My husband's incredible, but there are times where he's like, at dinner's on the table and he's like, oh my gosh, sorry, I got caught up. I'll be home in 30. And I'm like, I don't have that luxury. I don't have the luxury to be like, sorry, kids, I'll pick you up in 30 minutes. Like school ends and I have to drop everything at 3:30 to go get them. And so little things like that where that would be nice, but I don't care who I'm talking to, unless I can quickly get someone to go pick up my kids, I'm dropping everything. And so that right there for moms, you're the default parent. So, and I want that flexibility. It's not I chose this. The third is that women are so magical. They're so magical. They're so intuitive, and would be such a missed opportunity for the world if we were all just operating like in a mechanical way. Like the work that the women like yourself and the other women that I get to work with are bringing to the world. This is not this cookie cutter copy paste work. These are women who have a desire to truly impact and change the world. It's not just about money. And so when you combine all those 3 things, it's like, no wonder the bro marketing isn't how we should be building.
Yeah, it's like counterproductive when I think about it, because I'm a mom, as you know, and many of the women listening will be moms. And that's exactly it. It's like, I don't have the opportunity to be like, I can't pick up the kids. I can't get them to soccer. I can't get them to football, whatever the obligation is. And that's very much by design in my house as well, too. Like, I want to be the default parent, even when some days I'm like, oh, this is interrupting something for me. And then I'm like, no, this is such a blessing that I get to do this. And my question for you around this is this what led you to want to have an online business to this magnitude, where not only are you getting to create this life for yourself and your family, but now you're kind of like setting that example for what can be normal for female entrepreneurs?
I didn't realize it at the time when I started building my online business. I really just thought, oh, it would be fun to make more money. And I didn't really like working in corporate. And as I built my business and I became really passionate about helping other mothers and started doing the deeper work on myself, what I uncovered was that there was some trauma from my childhood that was small t trauma. My mom, and she's okay with me sharing this story, but when I was young, my parents got divorced. And a year later, my mom's mom passed away. And she was working in a very stressful, high-powered, she was a VP at an ad agency. She had a lot she was commuting downtown from the suburbs. So she was on the train and rushing around. And I just remember her being so busy and overwhelmed as a kid. Well, when all that happened after the divorce and after her mom passed away, I remember coming home from school one day and she was home, and she was never home when I got home from school. And she said, yeah, I just woke up this morning and I couldn't lift my head off the pillow. Well, 25 years later, she still suffers from chronic fatigue. She burnt herself out so bad that she was basically unable to get out of bed and leave the house for more than a quick errand for almost 10 years. Like, it started to slowly get better, but I was young. I was in grade 9 when that happened. And so my sister was still in elementary school. And so I saw what happens when women try to have it all and don't know how to regulate their nervous systems and take care of themselves, what can happen. And so I think unconsciously, I was really afraid of that happening to me, and I didn't want to go down that same path. And so that's why after having kids, that's when I had the huge kick in the butt of like, I'm creating the course. I'm making this happen. I'm quitting my corporate job. And that's why I am so passionate about helping other women, because I see what can happen when you don't.
Yeah. And I think there's a really big difference between the people that stay stuck in that like childhood mentality or that victimhood versus the people that look at that and are like, I don't want to be that. I think people fall into one of two camps. You're either going to be somewhat of a replica of your parents and your upbringing, or you're going to go the polar opposite. Do you notice this with women?
You know what? I hadn't actually had that thought before. I do know that people do tend to become their parents, and I've witnessed that. But I think because I'm around so many of the latter, the women who are trailblazing, are the first in their family, are doing things differently, that I am more aware of that.
Yeah.
And I love it.
It's really cool. And when you talk about like not being a cookie cutter model from one business, like business coach, let's take as an example, dime a dozen, right? How does today's trailblazing woman separate herself? Let's use the online social media space as an example. How does she stand out to really highlight the fact that she's doing something different? She is not your typical cookie cutter business coach. What are some of the ways that you find really effective for helping women kind of be in their own lane where there's not even other people around them because it's so unique?
Yeah. Well, if you think about humans in general, right? Like if we just make this not even about a personal brand, if you look around and you think of 10 people that you know, each and every one of them is so different and so unique. And even it might be the same group of girlfriends, but each of you have different interests and different mannerisms and different ways that you speak about things and perspectives on things. And this is why personal brands are so powerful, because we can get really lost in the sauce of, well, there's already someone doing this and they're talking about this too. But that's where your story, what you've gone through, what you have alchemized from your pain, your suffering, even your wisdom and your joy, what have you taken from all of those lessons? And so who you are, what you've experienced, what you've learned, the stories that you have to tell, that's what makes you stand out. And we get so wrapped up in, well, this person said it first and this, it's like, no, we're all here collectively trying to shift consciousness, trying to change the world. And so good that they're talking about it. It means that like we need more people talking about these things, because not one person is going to be the person who changes the whole world. We all have people who are here whose souls are waiting for us to lead so that they want to learn from us. And we've all experienced this. We've all experienced hearing a bunch of people talk about, let's say everyone's talking about the new show that you need to watch. But then one person that you look at in a different way says, no, this show is amazing. I just watched it. And you're like, oh, okay. If Lee said it's good, I want to watch it. The same goes for our business. So if you're looking around and you're seeing that other people are doing things too, you're focusing too much on the other people, and you're also not focusing enough on the change that you're here to make. You should be celebrating the fact that other people are too. It's like, yes, let's go. I'm going to support them because there's enough for all of us. But just in terms of standing out, be yourself. And I say that with like an asterisk because I get so not triggered, but I find it very irritating when people just say, be yourself, because that is so confusing to a lot of people who either don't know what that means and who I think I am being myself, or they don't feel safe to actually show up and be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
that's where the deeper work comes in.
Yeah. And what's the process for like really coming into yourself and having so much conviction, so much confidence that you can't help but naturally bring yourself out into that content?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're afraid of judgment, if you're afraid to be seen, if you need to be liked, then you're going to show up with masks on. You're going to show up trying to control the way that you're perceived. That is not going to be your most authentic self. And so, what we need to do is we need to create safety in being judged, in being seen, in being misunderstood, disliked, all of the things that come up when you think about someone seeing you in your most authentic self. Maybe if you think about if there were cameras on in your home, would you be proud? So there's the inner and the outer. The inner is that, can we become so self-assured in who we are and how we show up that we don't need the validation from the external? And I'll talk about the process for that in a second. But the other is the external piece is, well, how are you actually showing up to make yourself proud? If you're ashamed of the way that you're living, maybe that's a hint for you that you want to change those things. And so going back to the inner work around, okay, you're afraid of being judged, which is a huge thing. People are, of course, we live in a communal, humans are naturally built for community. And so being liked and accepted by your family and your peers is a safety mechanism. There's a direct tie to safety when someone likes you, right? And so that translates to the online world. You want people to like you because that creates safety. When someone doesn't like you, it doesn't feel safe. How do we create safety around being judged? When you think about being judged, it's going to bring up a sensation in your body. We think that this fear of being judged, and this is how I was living for a very long time. I was very much in my head where I could talk myself out of things. No, you're fine. Who cares what they think, right? We've all said that, but our body feels very differently because our body cares, because we have not yet rewired what being disliked or misunderstood actually means. And so what this looks like for my clients is locating in our body where the sensation is, how we're actually feeling when we think about being disliked or misunderstood or judged. And that might be a tightness in your chest or a ball in your throat, a pit in your stomach, tingling through your arms and legs. Those are very common sensations in the body. But what you want to do is you actually just want to feel it to free it. You want to feel that sensation and release it. You want to, that fear is simply just a sensation in your body. But most people spend their whole life avoiding uncomfortable sensations versus just sitting with them. And I don't know about you, Lee, like when you've sat with these sensations, what ends up happening for you?
Oh, it just gets minimized completely. And I just keep repeating in my mind, it's okay. It's okay. And then it's literally I'm assuming the method here is just you're rewiring neural pathways within the brain to be like, this isn't the real threat that my body perceives it to be, right? So it's just, it's classic like cognitive behavioral therapy. You're just bringing that awareness to the thought and changing the internal dialogue around it, while also just giving yourself the proof that you're actually safe, right?
Yeah, it's that. And also when you feel it to free it, it isn't going to be there as much. This is how you actually heal and remove these fears from your body. And so there are times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do this because of whatever reason. And then I'm like, wait, let me just sit with it. Okay, I feel like I'm going to be judged, and that's going to be so embarrassing. And when I just sit with it and I go inward, because I'm already experiencing what it would feel like to be judged and humiliated before I even do anything. I'm already feeling it. So I may as well actually just go feel it versus not doing what I should do to avoid the feeling, because I'm already feeling it. So I just drop into my body and I'm like, okay, this is a sensation, and I can feel an uncomfortable sensation for any amount of time. And it usually only takes 2 minutes. And so I sit with it and I'm like, okay, it feels like a giant rock in my stomach. Let me just let it be there. It's safe to feel this. And you just let it be there and you process it and you breathe into it and you stop your brain from trying to intercept, because your brain your brain thinks that fear is protecting it, is protecting you. So I like to say that your thoughts are like a parasite to your fears, to the fears and sensations in your body. The more you think, the more story you go into of no, but like I really can't post that and say that because then my mom will this, or whatever stories. Drop the stories. The stories won't even exist once you remove that rock, once you remove the sensation. So for me, in my experience, once I sit with it and I actually feel it to free it, and then all of a sudden, those stories don't have anything to keep alive. The sugar doesn't have any parasite to keep alive. It's just like, okay. And then the story's quiet because I'm like, wait, what was I afraid of? Oh, well, yeah, if she judges me, that's fine. And it's an actual authentic, who cares? Versus who cares from an ego, like I'm going to pretend I don't care, but inside I'm dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And usually like there is one specific person that we're thinking about, right? Like Amanda from high school is going to have her eyes on my stuff. And one of the things that I really like about this technique is it's that quick pace of moving through the stuff, right? I think there's a lot of people in like the healing space who really stay in their, like, I don't want to say traumas, but maybe to some degree, some sort of trauma. And I see it all the time where people are just living and breathing that story that just keeps them stuck and they're not able to get out of it. And it becomes this like attachment identity type of thing. Do you see this?
Oh my gosh. Yes. This is massive. People are very addicted to their stories and their suffering, and identify so much with these stories and what happened to them that they don't know who they are without it. And it can be very scary for them to be like, well, who am I? And all of a sudden you don't have an excuse for something if you let that go. And so another great prompt for people is to ask yourself, who am I without this story? Or who am I without that experience, without that trauma?
I'm going to leave that journal prompt as well too.
Yeah, because we don't consciously realize how much these stories are creating our current reality.
And how can we bring that into our storytelling? Because that's essentially at our core, like that brand, that personal brand, right? Is bringing the story into it. But there needs to be like that clear divide of like, that was my story. It's not who I am anymore. How do we kind of like draw that line when it's something that we maybe need to talk about often? Specifically, I'm thinking about nutritionists who have come out of some really horrific health diagnoses, and now they're in the space where they're teaching other people how to get out of it themselves. So they're living in this world. Their work is revolving around this work. How can they separate themselves from feeling so attached to that old identity?
It is really powerful to have that lived experience. And so I think that it's amazing that they have the actual experience and they have walked themselves through the process. It's that example of I don't want to learn how to get abs from a 20-year-old who's been a stick her whole life. I'm pushing 40. I want to learn from the 40-year-old who's had 2 kids, had C-sections, right? Like has goldfish crackers in the cupboard. I want to learn from her. And so what you've gone through is so relevant in your personal brand. And the way that you led yourself through that is going to be why people want to hire you. And so I think that if you're holding on to a story and a past experience of like, well, I know what it was like and it's this victim mentality of like, well, if I can do it, you can do it. That's one way. But if you're looking at it as, I know exactly how you feel because I've been there. I know what it feels like to be exhausted every morning when you wake up and to be miserable when you have to get dressed and go to an event or whatever experiences your ideal client is going through, and resonate with them. People want to hire someone who gets them. Honestly, people aren't hiring you because you have the answer. They can go find the answer in a million different ways. They're hiring you because of what you've lived. And so, don't let your story stop you. Let it empower you and share it from a super empowering place, because that is going to be why people hire you. Is that what you were asking, Lee?
Yeah, it's just this idea of like, I think it is that. It's that coming out on the other side, being able to share your story, your lived experience, but from an empowered place, not from this like, come meet me down here place. It's like, come jump up here. I'm up here now. I want to bring you with me. So yes, you definitely answered that. I want to switch over to kind of like the marketing and the strategy side of things. What are some things that you see are working so well in 2026? And what are some things that are old and outdated that we need to leave behind?
Mm-hmm. Embodied sales, like what we were just talking about, is the future, because that is something that AI cannot replicate. And people want more than ever to know that who they're hiring is someone who has walked the talk and walked the walk, whatever the saying is. And they understand them. They have experienced the same things. I can sit and chat with AI all day and figure things out, but that does not replace a nutritionist who can sit down with me and be like, I know exactly what you are going through. And maybe it might not be that they're currently going through that or they've recently gone through that, because maybe they've been a nutritionist for 10 years. And so their experience is back from when they're pre-kids or whatever it might be. But your embodiment is then in who you help. You are so embodied in who you are and the lifestyle you maintain, but also embodiment can come because you know how to help that specific person. And so it's being so embodied in what you do. Whatever you are selling, if you are not the epitome of that, it is going to feel hard. If you are selling something that is an extension of you, that is what is so easy. And that is what people want in 2026 and beyond. They want just that resonance. Words do not carry any weight anymore. It is energy more than ever, because anyone can go create the perfect sales page copy, the perfect post, the perfect sales copy, whatever it might be, because ChatGPT or Claude is helping them. But not everyone can actually be the person who truly is that result, is the identity that their ideal client wants to become. And so when you are truly embodied in what you do, sales become very, very easy. And I always say, like, if your things aren't selling, then look at your embodiment, because we often think we need to sell this dream. We need to sell the flashy thing, because this is what used to work. Tell people you can make them more money. Tell people you can make them lose weight, and you'll make sales. But now people don't just believe that. They're like, I have to feel that you're actually making money. I have to feel that you're actually healthy, that you have a good relationship behind the scenes. And we all know that feeling when you're reading something, you're like, something just feels off and you can't explain it. And when other times when it's like, I feel like I resonate so much with this person and I will buy whatever they want to sell me.
Yeah, that's so true. Like that embodied work is the work, right? It's not the sales pages. It's the energy behind that. It's the vibes. And I think this goes back a lot to like women having this 28-day cycle and just knowing when to tap in. Like, I'm somebody that has always been haphazardly consistent with social media. And that's because I cannot force myself to create or show up on camera if I'm not like 100% behind it. And anytime that my energy isn't there, first of all, I'd never want to hit post, but if I force myself to hit post, I don't have the engagement. I don't have the conversations moving into DMs or anything, whether it's stories, that's usually like where the most engagement happens. But when I come in with like, I always say it's like my natural fire, right? Like my fire is firing. It's just so easy. It gets to be so easy. And I think we just have to really capitalize on the fact that we're in this flow state. We have the energy. We have that time in our cycle where it's like, go all in, be social, be chatty, like screw the don't post more than 3 stories at a time. You want to post 20 because you got something to say, go for it, right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I'm the exact same way with social media. If I don't feel excited by what I'm posting, then I don't want to post it. I think that's actually good for the brand as long as you are not being overindulgent with, oh, I don't really feel like it. So I'm giving myself the excuse, because your job is also to get into the state, is to get into the state where you feel in your flow. And that's a huge part of why nervous system regulation is a massive conversation with my clients, is because when you are in your flow state, which is your ventral vagal state, which is the highest, peak state of your nervous system, then things flow. That's when you're not worried about what people think. That's when you're just thriving. And I was stuttering there because I was feeling it, and you can just
I could see that.
You can think of it and you can just feel it, of like, this is what it feels like to be alive. This feels so good. I'm not overthinking it. When you start to get into the overthinking, you're then in fight or flight. Or if you can't post at all, you're in the dorsal. Now, like you said, we do have to be aware of our cycle. I know that my resources are much lower when I'm menstruating or pre-menstruating. And I know that. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to still work on my energy and getting into the state. But that looks different than getting into the state when you're mid-cycle and you feel like $1,000,000.
Yeah, totally. Okay. I'm going to share some of the things that I do to get into state, because this is something I've been more conscious about lately. Because for me, it can look like I have certain days where I'm like, I'm not doing my hair, I'm not doing my makeup. And so that can really bleed into a whole day of being like, it's a write-off. So I've become very hyper aware of that. But what are some of the things that you do to get into flow?
Mm-hmm. I think that getting ready is so massively underrated, especially if you're a content creator. If I have my makeup and hair done and a cute shirt on, I am unstoppable. Like when it comes to content, I had to get dressed for something. I was going to a meeting downtown a couple weeks ago, and I had my hair and makeup done, and I'm like, I feel good. And I think I created 10 talking head reels in my car, in my bed. You couldn't stop me. I was just, okay, let me just talk to my camera. I feel great. And so I definitely think that getting up and getting ready, and I have a very similar routine where I get up, I get ready, I feed the kids, and I do a workout of some sort, whether it's going to Pilates or going for a walk or doing some strength training at home. I move my body in some way once the kids leave. And that helps me. If I'm tired, all of a sudden I'm not tired. And if I haven't gotten ready before that, usually I'm ready after that. And also I have calls in my calendar, because another thing that gets me really into state is doing podcast recordings, is serving my clients. And we're talking about this in our mastermind the other day, because when I'm serving, when I'm talking about this work, that's how I get into my flow state so easily. And sometimes if I have days and days and days where I don't have anything, I start to drag. I start to lose sight of it.
Yeah. That's the power of women in community, right? And that's why I think being in a mastermind is a non-negotiable. Like, if you have never experienced the power of a mastermind, it can literally not only transform your personal life, but also your professional life. Like 10x things can happen for sure. So for me, getting in my state it's actually quite similar to yours. For sure, moving my body. I've actually committed to doing something on a Friday. I don't work on Fridays, most Fridays. It's like the fuck off Friday, which you coined back in like what, 2019?
Oh my gosh, forever ago.
Forever
Maybe
ago.
2021. I think it was 2021.
So basically a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah. So getting into, I'm doing hot Pilates or like some sort of hot yoga, but just that like sweat energy feels so productive and so energizing. And then for sure, like if I'm at home, it's grabbing the speaker, blaring my workout playlist, which is like the best of the early 2000s, and getting showered and getting ready and talking to people. And sometimes if there's nobody to talk to, a podcast is that like amazing pump up for me. I will either have like a notebook or my phone app open and I'm like, ideas just come, like downloads are happening. I cannot stop them. I have to pause podcasts. I have to re-listen to group chat conversations and I'm like, oh my God. And you're just vibing so hard. It's the best.
So good. And yeah. And you've shared some incredible wins that have happened to you and to your community inside your own mastermind and all that. And you've also experienced being in this mastermind. You came in yesterday and you're like, it was your birthday. So you're off doing your thing, but you're like, I'm listening to all this and it feels so good. And other women coming in being like, I don't have a question, but listening to this is firing me up. That is so valuable, right? We talked about at the beginning, what stops people from reaching that next level. If you're looking around and the people around you aren't doing the things that you want to be doing.
Yeah. New circle.
You're going to need to do a lot of inner work to make that feel comfortable, or go get into a room where it's so normalized that you feel silly not to have it, not to go after it. Like do both of those things and you're going to watch your life just quantum leap very fast.
Yeah. I kind of want to bring this back to community for a second because I just think it's, like I said, it's non-negotiable. It feels so necessary, especially right now. And this really relates to a conversation around AI and how we need to I think we're potentially overusing AI and relying on it so much that it can muddy our message or maybe even put thoughts down that aren't necessarily authentically ours. How do you see AI being used in a positive way versus in a negative way? And also, let's just talk about how AI can never create community. You have to create community and be in community for these gargantuous goals to come to life, right? That was a bit of a loaded question and a little bit sloppy, so I apologize.
No, I heard the two questions. So the first question being around what do I see that's good about AI that we can really leverage? And I think that, to be honest, I don't think I leverage AI in all the ways that we can. And
same.
We'll see what comes of that. But for right now, I think it is great for time saving and for articulating. I'm a speak to articulate kind of person. And so anytime I've had to write a keynote, what I do is I go out for a walk and I record myself. If I were to have been handed a mic out of nowhere and I know the topic, I record what I would say. And then from that, I go and I write it because I need to talk it out. And so a lot of times that's what I'll do with AI. I'll talk into the whatever chatbot I'm using, and it will help me see the through lines in my business. Sometimes I'll be like, I'm thinking about an offer like this. Does this even make sense for and they can help me bring the through line. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so true. And that's been really valuable for me. The time saver, just helping bounce ideas off of. I think that that's kind of the general way that most business owners use it. I definitely do not use it to write my content. I will leverage it. Sometimes if I don't think there's ever been a time where ChatGPT has given me a better carousel than I could write. I'm always and no matter how much I bully it and being like, this is terrible. No, it can't. And so I know how I speak. I know what resonates. And like we said, it's the resonance that hits. And so when I get on and I tell a story the way I would tell a story in a carousel post, and I know how to write a hook, it does better and it feels better too. And so sometimes I'll use it to be like, what are the main points? How do I break this out? And I see how it does it. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to put a way better starter slide because yours sucks. And then I'm like, okay, right. These are the main things. Let me now write that in the way that I would write it. So I leverage it to save me time. But that's how I use it. And I'm not sure if I'm the AI expert, but works for me. And the second question being how AI can't replicate community and the importance of community as we're scaling? Yeah, I think that this is becoming even more important now that AI is such a thing, because it's almost like the less you think you need something, the more you value it.
Yes.
And so I see community being one of the number one things that people are seeking in the next, era of online businesses.
Yeah, I agree. And this was one of the ways that course creation has kind of evolved for me personally in the last 6 months or so. It's like having this live element to your course, because people are a little bit removed from self-paced studies right now. It's feeling too lonely, and there's enough lonely activities to fill our week that we don't need to add one more to it. But when you create this live element, I have one of my one-on-one coaching clients doing this right now, is just like a pilot. It's like, okay, let's see what happens when you offer this in a live thing over the next 8 weeks. And we're going to be testing her results and seeing what happens. But I think this is what people are really drawn to, is the fact that they get to be around other people. I know for me, it was like I had said at the top of the podcast, it was so not on my radar as a thing that I needed. I didn't really put a lot of value in it until I got in it myself. And then I was like, oh, okay, this is where the magic happens. This is where things level up. This is where ideas get expanded upon, and the growth really happens in community with women. It's just one of the most powerful business hacks, I guess you could say.
Totally. And it's, if you think about, when you see or you call a company and all of a sudden you realize you're talking to AI and you're just pounding on zero, being like, how do I talk to a human? Yeah, give me a human. I don't want to talk to a robot. It's the same thing in business. If your business is just something that people can get from a robot, then yeah, you're creating something that can be replicated. But this personal element, not only do I think that it's so valuable because of the connection piece, but also because each person's situation is so different. The results are expedited because you don't just have theory, you have someone who can reflect things back to you, which I believe is the job of a coach, which I believe you are so incredible at for your clients. And this is what makes a really good coach. It's not about knowledge. It's high level people. This is really important. High level people who are paying high ticket are not paying for quantity of things and knowledge and expertise. They're paying for someone who can reflect back to them their blind spots, yes, in an expertise. So for you, you're incredible with nutritionists and course creation and building your personal brands. So when you can reflect back to someone, this is what I see. These are the gaps that I see. Mm-hmm. That is so much, so valuable. And it's from not just because technically ChatGPT could do this too if you put in everything, but no, not the same way that a coach can see you're falling into self-sabotaging patterns. This is what's actually happening here. This is a limiting belief. I can see that, you're repeating this. You can't get that from a robot in the same way that you can from a human. And you might hear it from a robot, but that robot's not going to hold you accountable and actually help you shift out of that the way that I've seen you do with your clients, the way that I do with my clients. And so there's so much to that in person and if you are someone who is wondering, okay, I need to add more to my course or I need to give more, it's not. People who are people who are, I know for me, I don't want a lot to do. I want the transformation with as little amount of things that I have to do. And if just getting on a call once a week and hearing the expertise and knowing my next steps and you reflecting back to me what I'm doing wrong and why I think that I'm doing it right, but no, I'm actually not because of things I can't see, that is, I would pay 10 times the amount.
100%, like total mic drop moment. It's also just this shift that we went from 2020, which was value, 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 more, more, more. And now it's like, no, who can get me there with the most impact that I can take with me, no matter if I'm looking at this offer or that offer, and how can I get there faster? Like, we really have to move away from this idea that our value is in more time, more information. It's actually the opposite now in 2025 and 2026. And I think people are really just looking for what's the path to least resistance? Like, get me my results. If you can get me my results in 24 hours versus me working with you in 12 months, I'm going to choose that. And I'm going to pay the exact same amount for the results you can get me in 24 hours or 12 hours, whatever, as I would in 24 months or whatever it is. So this is a shift that so many people are just, they have to understand that more is not more, less is more.
Yeah. And it's also important to notice where you believe that you need to give more, because that it shows your own blocks around, okay, well, I have to give more to make it worth it. And that just comes back to your own self-worth and your own belief that you need to be doing versus can you allow yourself to just be and know that you are an expert and that you are capable, and that just sometimes for people to just be in your presence and to hear you sharing with someone else is worth the investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to ask you, what is something that you are so excited about for 2026? What do you have on the horizon? What's lighting your fire right now?
A few things. I actually turned 40 this year. And so
Welcome to the club, girl.
Oh, it feels like an exciting threshold that I'm going to be stepping through. Did you just turn 40?
No,
yesterday?
I hit 41.
Okay. Yeah. So I turned 40 in September. And so that's kind of really motivating to me. I'm like, this is exciting. And I really believe that birthdays are like any holiday. It just amplifies what you're experiencing in your life. And so for me, I'm lucky that I feel so good about everything that I've done in my life and where I'm at, that I can be really excited about turning 40 versus stressed or regretful about anything. And so really looking forward to just kind of closing this era with a bang. And I'm holding some in-person events this year. And I'm also launching a new community, rebranding the business, doing a lot of things. I'm really just allowing myself to create, and one of the things that I'm really focused on is focus and commitment, because in the past, I've always been very committed to my business, but I am an Enneagram 7 and I'm a manifesting generator. And so there are times where I find myself having shiny object syndrome.
Oh God, yeah.
Right?
I know, it's so enticing.
Yeah, I want to do everything. And I think that that's actually really served me for the last decade, learning the online world and building my business. And now I'm like, I've done a lot. I've learned so much. And now it's time to really focus and commit.
I love that so much for you. I'm excited to see what else you do. And I'm excited for the event and the brand reboot and everything. Where can listeners find you?
They can find me on Instagram. My handle's at the Sarah Lambert. That's where I hang out most of the time.
Yes, perfect. Okay. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for being here today. I always adore a conversation with you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you so much for having me, Lee.